Coming to you from a portable microphone, this is Don't Get Me Started. This is a conversation about advertising. And here is your host, freelance creative director and creative circus department head, Dan Balser.
Yes, welcome back to another episode of the podcast. You can file this episode under The Show Must Go On. If you can't tell yet that my voice isn't right, my voice, my brain, I've also got this thing called blepharitis. Can you see the blepharitis?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like an infection in my eyelid. I get that on and off. And you know what? The whole point of this podcast is just my sort of opportunity to complain to a bigger audience about every fucking thing going on in my life.
Great.
Like, you can hear it. You can hear it in my voice. You can hear Amanda Speer in the background there. If you haven't yet met Amanda, I strongly recommend you do so. Todd Feitlin is with me today as well. And I'm going to go through their bios, but, I've been editing this podcast, and I haven't recorded one of these in a while. This has been a while that we've actually had a chat, and I'm hoping that this episode, which I haven't heard yet, people, we haven't even recorded it, and I don't have any questions actually planned. I'm hoping that this is going to go against the grain, because we've got at least one neophyte who, I love this, has never even heard of the podcast, never listened to a single episode. Todd showed up today to give a talk to the students that was fucking on point, BTW.
Thank you.
Like, you guys were really good. And I meant to say that when I wrapped up, to say, like, you guys, that was some really rich stuff that, like, is all just a bunch of sort of, like, I think it's sort of the Peanuts teacher talking when they're in school.
Yeah.
Wah, 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 wah.
Absolutely.
And then, like, maybe a little bit of what you said will resonate when it happens.
Yeah.
And someone's going to be like, oh, that's what he was talking about, or that's what she meant when she said that. And it's like I'm sitting there nodding and nodding and nodding. I'm also, part of me was sort of thinking, like, yes, you're saying stuff that I don't have to then say again, because a lot of the things that you were talking about, really about resilience, which I think is really profound. I think it's just sort of like, well, duh, I'm going to try hard. But like, no, you have no idea what you're up against. You have no idea, actually, that you have no idea.
Right.
Like, you have no idea. Like, you can anticipate things, but you can't possibly. How many times has happened to you that you guys, like, you're about to go into the client meeting, you sort of have your pre-meeting powwow with your planner and your account guys and women, and they know the client. Here's the things they're going to say. Here's the sort of walls we got to put up to protect this work, right? They're going to say, like, someone's going to be sensitive about showing that, or that's not really hitting the product shot right. And then you get in the meeting, and how many times it happened? It was like, holy crap, how the hell did they come up with that we never thought of? Like,
right.
Every single time, right? Pretty much every time they say something you never could have imagined they were going to say. That's where resilience comes, because your thing has just died from a bullet you never saw coming. So anyway, that's sort of, so people got me started. So Todd is creative director, as you know, at Mekanism. He started off, actually went to Miami Ad School. And I meant to say this in the forum, like, we have no gripe, no rivalry or bad feelings about Miami Ad School or other ad schools. You know,
we're all friends.
Yeah, we're all friends.
All in this together.
Well, we're all in this alone to a certain extent.
We're in this alone together.
Well, I had a partner, Don Miller, who said that to me once. He said, Dan, we're all in this alone. And it's not a bad attitude to have if it doesn't consume you.
Yeah.
It's sort of a good sense of self-preservation. But I don't feel like, we're going to be... most of my alumni are working with Miami Ad School grads and VCU grads. And frankly, there's a whole other conversation. They're also working with the client's niece that had an internship that now they're working with that's never written an ad in their life.
The bane of my intern running experience.
Right. So, Miami Ad School, all for it.
Just got to go to one. That's all that matters.
You got to go to just any ad school?
You got to go to a ad school.
I don't know. There are great undergraduate programs out there too. CU Boulder has a great program. University of Texas at Austin has a great program. It just University of Oregon. I think it just depends on your level of commitment in those programs to translate it externally.
Okay. That's pretty rare though, isn't it? That you got someone that can actually, like, those don't turn out ready to go professionals the same way the ad schools do though, right?
Yeah, I mean, they can't, the big idea thinking isn't there as much, but they are a little bit more prepared than your more like traditional four-year college. Like where I went to school, I would have never been prepared.
Where was that?
Metro State University in Denver, Colorado.
Okay.
Yeah, so I have a master's degree in history from the University of Colorado, Denver, and then I went to Metro to teach middle school.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. I did that for about 1 year because that sound right there is about how great it went.
Right. I have a middle schooler, and I have him for 3 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway.
Thankfully, mine went away at the end of the day.
Oh yeah, no, mine comes home and reports nothing other than the teachers that are annoying him that week.
Yeah.
So Todd, prior to Miami Ad School, graduated from the University of Florida in advertising, and has a string of agencies at which all of these agencies were just shy of 2 years. So Spike DDB, McGarry Bowen, Publicis, Sapient Nitro, and then a stint freelancing. And I think that your attitude about freelance, Todd, I think is a great model. And it reminds me of my friend Craig Mannion, who's been a long, long time freelancer. And being able to work on cool projects with friends is a really cool thing. He was then a writer at Havas, then Pereira at Odell, and he has been at Mekanism now for about 2.5 years and is now creative director at Mekanism. Please check out Todd's website to see his work. The best way to do that would be to use your Googler and search Todd Feitlin. And you know what? As a public service, I'll go ahead and throw a link to his website up on the Facebook page, which is, as you know, facebook.com/DGMS podcast. If you haven't liked that yet, then fuck you. Amanda Speer is... I've had a rough week, folks. I mean, you know what?
I like the sassy.
No, there's this fine line between sassy and fucking dick, and I'm worried I'm going to be a dick. You know, there's so much joyful optimism to my left in this room on the other side of the microphone that I'm kind of feeling like they're gonna shore me up and keep me on point, because I am basically firing on like 1 a.m. to 6:45 a.m. all week, and for various reasons, and it caused, you know what? If you don't fucking take care of your body's going to get back.
Yeah,
it will get even. It will get its fucking just desserts.
Yeah, and as you get older, I mean, these are things like, you know, you were saying earlier where people don't realize until they experience it. Life is like that, where somebody told me once that I start to get hungover in my 30s, and I was like, no way. Yeah. No way does that happen. And I hit 33, and now those hangovers are rough.
I will just say, a neglected body will get its revenge. Bottom line, it will get its revenge.
It'll shut you down.
Yeah.
Fuck me, fuck you.
Watch this.
Amanda Speer was for 6 years. This is where you recognize her name from. She was the recruiter, creative manager at Crispin Porter plus Bogusky, and she's been for the last year the senior creative recruiter at Mekanism. She is based out of her internet. And she recruits for all of Mekanism's offices, which are, you're going to have to help me with this, different cities.
Yeah, we have San Francisco, Seattle, Chicago, New York. So for an agency our size to have 4 offices nationwide, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah. Okay. So I didn't plan any of this. So
We're just throwing gems at you, and you're just
right. I was pretty much 50-50 on coming down here today. How does it work culturally? And I know that Todd had mentioned in the forum that a couple of those agencies, or a couple of those offices had started to serve local clients. So does it become another Mekanism office, or does it become? How does it become? I guess that's the question. How does it become Mekanism?
Right.
In another city with a whole different personnel, because all of these, you're not like a bakery that can open 2 locations with a recipe.
Right.
We're human beings that really aren't the same. They're not clonable.
No, unfortunately, we would clone like Tommy and Ian and Pete and Z a million times over.
Yeah, maybe not Z, but yeah.
Hopefully he listens to this.
So how does it work, and how does it work? Is that something that you struggle with? Is that something?
No, it's funny actually, because I've worked at a bigger agency that had a really wonderful culture to it, and I loved the people that I worked with in that Boulder office. But I sit in my basement in Denver, Colorado, and I feel the culture come through via email through Mekanism, and it's a pretty amazing phenomenon. I think part of that has to do with the fact that we're still an independent agency, and so there aren't as many people making sure that we're all in line. So there's a little bit more like, there are no rules. Sometimes it feels like.
What does that mean to like a junior or a young person who may be looking to move or start their career? What does it mean? What's the advantage to a young person to work at an agency that is an independent agency?
Yeah, I think what I love about the independent nature is you feel like you have a larger voice, because you're not having to, the company as a whole isn't having to go to and report to the holding company. And so because of that, your voice is given a little bit more, I guess, warrant in the conversations because we're not so worried about what somebody else is thinking. We just have to make sure that what we think is right is right. And then two, I feel it's a little bit more employee centric, not to say large holding companies don't care about the people, but we have to look those people in the face based on decisions that we make that affect the entire agency every day. And so we do things like, help a little bit more with the healthcare and, do more events that are employee centric, community centric, because those are things we truly care about and are important to us. But then we have the right to decline going after business if it's not right for us. That all of our decisions aren't necessarily based on our bottom line.
That's very interesting. So Todd, moving there, what was it about the culture, the people that impressed you, and what was sort of the impetus to say, yeah, this is, and I can see it in your body language and in your tone that it's been really good. So what is it about that kind of felt good to you?
I think one thing about being independent is you get to work with the founders. You're working hand in hand. You get to kind of knock down all the walls and the levels. So everyone's really invested in this company, from a junior to the founders, and everyone has ownership of stuff. So I think that's pretty amazing. So when you walk in there, the culture is something that I'm not a fan of drinking Kool-Aid, but I definitely put down a couple glasses.
Right. So
of it.
Well, how would you describe the Kool-Aid? Is it just sort of a roll up your sleeves, let's get some cool shit done sort of thing?
Yeah. I mean, it's all hands on deck. We're all in this together. Everybody works. No, nobody is too good for anything, and
okay. So that means that creative directors are writing and
we all write. The founders write. Tommy and Ian are still.
So that's really cool.
Writing every day.
Jeff and Rich still write at Goodby. So
it's the best.
I think it keeps them honest with what type of work it is, and this industry is moving so fast now with the technology that if you step back even for a second, you miss something. So they have to be involved in the day to day, otherwise the periscopes or the whatever, pass you by.
That sounded like Ferris Bueller a little bit right there.
Roll to pass you by.
Yeah.
So all right. So I want to talk to Todd, both of you. But I want to start with Todd with this question. So in doing my due diligence, I browsed your work, a lot of television, a lot of fun TV, a lot of really simple in a good way, sort of easy to understand, fun, not asking too much of the viewer in a good way work. Clearly that's sort of your wheelhouse, but what's your favorite part of the business sitting where you are now with, I didn't do the math, but 12, 13 years experience?
14,
15, something like that, years experience. What's the part of the job that excites you to go to work in the morning? What do you enjoy doing the most? What's sort of the sweet spot for you?
I still love coming up with a big idea, finding that insight. And I think that's why a lot of my work is really simple, because I like to just come up with that simple truth and then play off of that. And there's just something about tapping into humanity. And I love studying people. I love studying behaviors. And
that's very cool.
Yeah. So when you have that insight with like the Henry stuff, when we came up with that idea going after Gen X, one, I was advertising to myself, and to be able to speak to an audience and to find that insight of like, yeah, they're older, but they're not old.
What's the tagline again?
Live hardish.
Live hard-ish. Right.
Yeah. With the
I love a detail on that. That leads me to another question.
Live hard-ish.
Yeah.
There's a detail on those that I love, and one of the spots where the bottle gets
coaster.
slammed down and then it lifts up and the coaster slides down.
Yeah.
Which is,
That coffee table costs some money.
Exactly.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
So I have a question.
You paid for that. It's not IKEA.
I don't get into a lot of sort of advertising process talk on the podcast, but I do have this question because typically my conversations all revolve around whatever's the last thing I thought about because I'm teaching classes, and I was thinking about sort of if you're allocated a certain number of hours or points for a project.
Yeah.
And I think what students in school tend to do, because I think there's a huge emphasis on the big idea. If they have 100 points, they're spending 60 or 70 of them trying to find that idea. Where I actually believe if you don't find one in the first 30 or 40, you should stop and take the best, even first thought you had, and craft it really cool, and write really great lines, and stop trying to find the big idea. So as your careers progress, have you found that sort of bar chart of how you allocate your time to be different? Are you still spending a lot of time coming with an idea, or is there more script crafting? And how has that evolved over your career? And does the question make sense?
Yeah, well, I think we come, as a career goes on, you sometimes, not all the times, but you come up with a big idea faster. You figure out how to get there, or you notice it when you say it.
Oh, that's
like
cool.
you're saying. Yeah. A lot of times, you're throwing stuff out there.
That's it. That's the one, right?
And and there's sometimes you just throw and you don't realize that you just had a gem that you just pushed aside. So
right, that happened the other day. So there's a team in my class working on Tropicana orange juice, and they wanted to go after coffee drinkers.
Okay,
so
there's a main ingredient missing in orange juice that coffee has.
Right, but there's sugar and there's nutrition, so whatever. So their thought, and I said, well, you're not going to. What about the coffee drinker? Like, you're not going to sell it as caffeine, but you can sell it as somebody who maybe has a drink to get their day started. So whatever. So they were struggling with this. I was walking through the hall to the mailboxes, and they see me and they say, "Hey, Tropicana, go!" It's like I'm supposed to come up with an idea. I'm like, "There's your tagline. You just said your tagline.
Yeah,
that's your tagline. Now build off of that."
Right.
So they didn't notice it, but like I've heard so many ideas for this. So we've had so many in my career, so many of these sort of processes that it does become you can identify it quicker. Which is really cool.
Right, and when you keep going, it's kind of talking about where you just try to complicate. You try to be more clever. You try to do things where sometimes it's that simple idea that everyone can relate to.
Clever used to be a pejorative word. Clever used to be a word that, that's clever. It's like now I think people are trying to be clever.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think
that's right.
I think what you're saying is a really good point.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. The simple idea. More, what we were talking about yesterday where you got to remember who you're talking to also sometimes.
Very much so.
Where you're not doing ads for your friends. You're doing ads for the people that are going to buy stuff. And it has to, you got to talk to a lot of people. And they have to be able to get stuff quick. People, they don't have the patience to try to figure out your clever idea.
Your clever idea.
You can still be clever, but, you got to keep it in that. I get that, and I like that, and it relates to me. So I'm good.
Right. I would actually contend that some of the best advertising we've ever seen is not a great idea. In fact, one of my favorite campaigns of the last decade by far, and you showed it, was the Most Interesting Man in the World. Is that a great idea?
No.
It's not a great idea.
But it had legs.
You know what it had? It had hours and hours and hours of writing one-liners.
Yeah, which is what I think Hardish, too. Like, you could just write for Hardish forever.
Yeah.
And you want to hear the coolest story? So I probably told this on the podcast, sorry. So my favorite thing that's ever happened as a teacher was I was watching a game, because the only time I watch commercials is when I'm watching the game.
Yeah, I know.
And one of those spots comes on, and the first line is, "He once parallel parked a train." And I laughed out loud.
Yes.
So I just reached for my phone and go on Facebook. I said, to the writer who wrote, "He once parallel parked a train, thank you." And within like 5 minutes, I had a "you're welcome" from an alumnus who worked.
Funny.
Yeah, which is like the coolest
That's the best.
That is
I've ever seen.
amazing.
Yeah.
Really, really fun.
No, but to your point earlier, I tell people all the time,
Paul Fix.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Paul's great. I'm an advertiser's nightmare. You have to find a new way in because I bite the hand that feeds me constantly, kind of. I have ad blocker. I don't have Facebook. I pay for the Hulu subscription so I don't have television commercials. And so I am your nightmare consumer because you have to reach me without me using any of those things.
Yeah.
So you have to catch me, experientially or out of home when I'm driving or whatever it is. That's what snags me. Or I hear somebody else talking about their love of a brand.
So it would be a good way to get your attention as someone who wants to work at Mekanism to do some sort of chalk gorilla thing on the sidewalk outside. Outside your dispensary, wherever you go in Colorado.
I was going to say, if you show up in my driveway, it might be kind of creepy.
Right,
but
you're not in the city.
But yeah, it's like if there's certain ads you hate or there's certain behaviors you do, you have to think, well, what would I do to get around that? If you're going to keep doing ads for the things that you hate, most likely a lot of people, whether hate or just find them completely annoying.
See, but you're saying a lot of things about like stepping back for a second and realizing like this isn't academic or science. This is sort of like observational, cultural, anthropological. And even those words are fucking too huge.
Yeah.
To say, all we're saying is like, wait a second, would you really like that? Or wait a second, I actually don't do that. Or wait a second, I actually paid money for that thing. I want a coaster on it. Like just being so reactive and sort of instinctual or whatever, I think is something that it's a hard thing for young people when they feel like they're learning a craft. They have to do it in an academic sort of rote way. And it's kind of refreshing to hear you talk about our craft as just being, right? Just communicating, just kind of talking through media.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I mean,
like-
I used to tell juniors a good place for them to start was just learning social, because you're having to interact with the consumer right away and you see how they respond to that. So it's just a really good way to get to know the brand. Even if you're not working on the social, go and look at their social pages, and not necessarily what they're posting as a brand, but how people are responding to those posts.
Yeah, tell your clients not to do that. How many times have you had work? Wait a minute, they didn't like it.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
my
God.
God.
Yeah. Good point.
Ugh. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
So what's your favorite thing about it, Amanda? What do you like about your role, your job, the business?
I mean, the people I work with are so spectacular. I get to work with very smart people. I never want to be in a place, not that I've ever felt like this, where I'm the smartest person in the room. I kind of like being the dumbest person in the room because I get to learn a ton from other people, from other people's experiences. I get to craft and mold a creative department a little bit more here at Mekanism, because I'm bringing in every single person in that department. So if somebody doesn't work out, that's kind of my failure, and I get to learn from it.
Interesting.
We still need more people. Everybody,
By the way,
send in
BT
your
Dubs.
books.
So one of my all time least favorite questions in interviews is like, what do you do for inspiration? But I'm going to twist it a little bit. Like, how do you stay interesting? How do you stay interested? Like, because one of the points you made about like, we want to hire people who are interesting, right? And the best way to be interesting is to be interested, right? Curiosity and being interesting go together. What do you do to get out of sort of the algorithms feeding you the same crap that you've already read? Like, what do you do personally?
Well, I have a 3-year-old now, and I know it's probably a little cliche
Boy
to
or
say,
girl?
a little girl. But that's kind of been, my inspiration. I feel like I saw the world one way for a long time, and that was my way. And now I see it a completely different way. So
Now my way is dad way.
yeah, exactly. But it's helped me look at things differently. The way I explain things, the way I appreciate things. So having like a completely new point of view has been really, really exciting for me. It's like definitely hasn't taken my edge away and taken my sarcasm away.
Right.
But it's let me look at everything a little bit differently. That kind of keeps me fresh.
Right, I think that's huge what you just said. I think there's a throwaway comment, or it's sort of almost a defensive comment, which I think is super, super, super important because
I'm still me.
Yeah.
well, it's like
change me.
well, my wife is a creative director and copywriter, and nothing in her sensibility or way of communicating changed or evolved at any stage of our children's lives. And it's so funny because it's not funny. It's the wrong word. That students will do ads for like, people my age or even retirees or whatever, and they change to talk about like how they observe an older person. That must be what that person's going through. It's like that person, youth is pretty familiar to them.
Right.
They're a young person. They're one thought away from being an idiot. So there's nothing that's changed in you because you have a parent, and there's no limit to the inspiration you can hold. There's nothing that takes away your being a stupid single guy just because you have a kid now.
Right.
Right.
So it's one more. It's a plus one.
Yeah.
And
You're adding a new dimension.
You haven't muted something to gain that. Is my point. And I think I'm only mentioning that to people that are trying to craft messages to target audience that aren't themselves.
Yeah.
So
No, it's like that idea that like, if it's a female brand, a female is going to be the team
Right.
that cracks it. Not necessarily. No. Sometimes it's the team that can look at you from the outside. It's,
Absolutely.
And maybe imitate and see it from a different perspective because you're not living and breathing it where you didn't notice it.
Right.
Yeah, it's the outside point of view sometimes shines a light on what all those people weren't really aware of. But when you kind of shine that light on them, they're like, that is us.
Yes,
Yeah.
Exactly.
And if you can not necessarily always laugh at it, but be self-aware as a brand,
Right.
I think that's the new way in of just being honest with people, letting them know what you stand for and who we are, and hey, we're okay with it. This is us. We're happy.
Right.
And just be honest.
It's pretty
Yeah.
cool. I think Rick Cohen also worked on that.
Oh, yeah, I like Rick.
Yeah,
He's a
I
really
have
good
to
guy.
say
He's a
that.
great photographer. Follow him on Instagram.
Oh wow, really?
Yeah,
Didn't see that coming.
he's very good.
Plug.
Yeah.
Welcome, Rick.
That's pretty cool. So Todd, what about you? What personal trait of yours do you think has been instrumental, helpful in getting you to where you are now? And do you feel like, first of all, do you feel like you've been successful? And if you do feel successful to this point, to what personal trait would you maybe attribute that?
I think I've been pretty successful. I think to get where I am right now, creative director, Mekanism, I think is for me it's kind of a dream job just for where I am in my life and the people I get to work with. So I feel like I've been successful. I mean, we always feel like there's other things we could have done. There's some things we left out there.
Yeah, don't think about your regrets.
Right. You can always have that, and but I feel really good. I don't know. I'd say I've gotten pretty far in spite of some personality traits. So I think
haven't we all?
Yeah, I think just that desire to continue to do better work has kind of driven me and gotten me,
That's pretty cool.
from one step to the other. And like we talked about through some times where you didn't like your job, it's still that desire of there's still more. I still have more to give, and I'm kind of curious and excited to see what it's going to be.
So have you actively tried to quash pessimism, or do you not generally go to that?
I quashed it a little bit, but I think it's a good part of my. Well, I wouldn't say it's a good part of my personality. It's a part of my personality I like because I think it helps me look at things from all different sides.
That's interesting. Yeah.
So I embrace it. I try, and then there's a time to put it aside and and focus on the good things. But it definitely helps me look at things from all different angles and maybe see something that I wouldn't have seen, before. So it's helped.
That's cool.
I wouldn't recommend people be pessimistic, but it helps.
Well, yeah. Well, you probably wouldn't recommend people to deny their true sort of how they see things. If you see things a certain way, how can you use it as a tool in a way? It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I think learning to laugh at the stuff helped. I think you can be pessimistic and get angry at stuff, or you can be pessimistic and laugh at it.
That's great.
And embrace it, and then see where that goes.
It's actually great marital advice as well. Right? It's good to be able to laugh at shit that goes bad.
Yeah, you have to.
Got it. So,
yeah.
Amanda, do you have something that's helped you, or have you seen traits in people whom you respect that you think are important?
Yeah, I mean, I think kindness, which sounds so cheesy, but it gets you so far. This industry is very small. The first time we interview somebody, one of the first things that people ask are, "Have you spoken to people who've worked with him or her in the past?" And this industry is small and likes to gossip a bit. So you do have to treat people with a kindness. It doesn't mean that you always have to be happy-go-lucky, never raise your voice or what have you. It just means that you have to treat people with a respect because people remember how you treat them. Mm-hmm. And it's a very powerful thing. So I've found myself, having my off days or what have you, where people are like, just avoid Amanda's desk altogether. She's not in a good mood today.
Maybe we should just leave her around.
Right.
Colorado.
Yeah, exactly. That's why they've left me
Lock
in Colorado.
the basement door.
Put her desk 1,100 miles away from the office. It might work really well.
But, you have to dig yourself out of those pessimistic or, jaded moments, which can... There are times where they feel like they're consistently happening. And that's when I feel them consistently happening. I think it's probably a problem with me and my outlook on it rather than the actual problem itself. It's my approach to it rather than the problem itself. We have problems all the time.
Mm-hmm. Treat people well.
Yeah.
That's like the best advice. You're gonna just do it because it's the right thing to do. Everyone is... Hopefully, everyone is trying their hardest. Mm-hmm. They're doing the best job they can. And, yeah, I mean, you might run into people again. You might do, word gets around and, it just makes you a little bit happier to treat other people well.
Yeah, because you can leave feeling better knowing that you did the best you could.
Yeah, don't make it personal.
No, it's not
personal. That's the one thing we're talking about with, work. I think it's good mechanism. It's not personal. It's very, it's honest, but we expect everyone... you gotta be an adult. You gotta be able to take the good with the bad, but you don't have to be a jerk to people.
I just think it's important for young people to realize that bad comes with good. I mean, there isn't a guarantee that everything's going to be smooth. When it does, it's like the perfect wave or the perfect day.
Yeah,
it's like those are awesome. Savor them.
Every subway door opens up right as you get there. You walk right in.
Air conditions.
Everything's going right.
Oh. But I think, too, one of the mistakes and missteps that I made early on in my career was not willing to admit when I had messed up. and wanting to fix it without telling anyone, trying to like solve it before because I felt like I'd let somebody down or something like that. And it became a bigger problem because I didn't address it and just admit that I messed up.
Right.
And it takes a big person to say, I screwed up, or I didn't get to that, or, I should have prioritized it and I didn't. And I'm sorry, I'll do it now goes a long way rather than like, oh, no, I did it. I just need to go. I'll send it to you soon. It's like, send it to me now. Like,
right.
Why are you sending to me soon?
Right. I learned that in my very, very, very first job at Ogilvy, New York, and I overheard this. Like, I wasn't involved in it, but I overheard an ACD. This story's probably changed in my mind. Like, it's way cooler now than it actually was. But like,
that's every story.
She lived in like Montauk, and she was a surfer, and she only worked like 2 or 3 days a week, but she had to work like late Friday night and Saturday because a junior that she supervised told her like the day before something was due that they didn't have time to work on it. And they knew when they got the brief that they weren't going to be able to work on it. But they didn't feel like they could tell her, I have too much stuff going on. Can you prioritize for me? They just dropped it, and she had to do it for them.
Which is so much worse. You do feel as a junior that you can't say no. And you absolutely can. It's
but
the way that you go about it.
Right. The way you go about it, correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't it best for me to come to one of you, if I'm a junior, and say, all right, I've got this that I'm working on for Todd. I've got this that I'm working on for this other CD. Can you help me prioritize this? What's the priority on this?
Right. Not, I can't do this.
I can't do this.
Tell me which one I need to do first.
Right. Is that the way to handle it?
I think so. As a creative manager, when I was a creative manager at Crispin, people came up to me all the time and said that, here are the 8 things you need to help me prioritize this because I can't do it myself. And we would sit down and, work it out together because sometimes it becomes so large, those moments in your life where you have so much to do, but yet somehow you find yourself on Facebook because your brain just can't handle it.
No, that's me, but Facebook would be ice cream.
Yeah. You ignore it all, and then it builds and builds and builds and builds. And sometimes you just need somebody to sit down and talk to and list it out, and it becomes digestible. Like you eat that elephant one bite at a time.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
Eat the elephant. If you're doing, I'd rather you do 2 things really well than 4 things mediocre.
Right.
And that's kind of what ends up happening. When you're spread too thin, you don't have enough time. And like we talked about earlier, as a junior, you need a little more time. There's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
You should take more time.
And you mentioned ad school. I think that's one of the things you learn here is you learn your limits. You learn your capacity so that when you get to that first job, you're not saying yes to everything and then learning the hard way. Like you learn that here pretty quick that like, oh crap, I can only do this much in this many hours.
Because you have an unrealistic sense of how long things should take.
Right.
I mean, we all do.
I'm sorry, did I interrupt you on that? You were talking about...
I think I was done with that.
I have a tendency...
I was already thinking about something else.
I think I care about people, but I also think I'm kind of a dick sometimes. I think I interrupt people too much.
That's very
so
insightful of yourself.
I just want
it's big of you
to appreciate you guys allowing me to work through some of this stuff together.
No, it's been a good day for you.
And I think it's great that you're lying down. Yeah, you're lying down on the couch. I think it's great as you talk about this.
The couch is good, but I can see that you guys are about to tell me that we're out of time. But real quick, Todd, I'm going to ask this question. I get to ambush you because this is a question I've asked I think pretty much every guest on the podcast. So knowing what you know now, if you could go back to 2003 from leaving Miami Ad School, what would you whisper in young Todd's ear if you could whisper something in your ear?
Whisper it creepy.
Yeah, whisper it really.
Hey Todd, hey buddy, what you up to? No, I would probably say, be patient. Would be one of my number one. Relax, and
because you only realize now this many years in. That there's this many years.
Yeah.
Because when you're in school, it's like 4 years of high school, then 4 years of college, then 2 years of grad school, and everything's measured on these little rhythms, and you get the rhythm switches, and you think, I got to do this in 2 years, I got to move that. Okay, so be patient.
Yeah, there's
some time.
That's the thing about the timeline is, you'll end your talent wise. If you're talented, you're going to end up in the place you deserve. You're going to get your breaks. You don't have to force it. Right. Like it'll come and. So, and I would just say, be patient. I think probably as everyone would say, as I get older, enjoy the ride a little more.
Yeah.
We work in a really fun industry.
Okay, what do you mean? Do you mean the pro ride or like your life outside of work? What ride are you saying? Because I may process that comment differently than some.
Well, probably both. I mean, think in general, but I would even say work. Like, take advantage of all the people you get to meet.
Oh, that's great.
You know, you meet, the agencies, they bring in these amazing photographers. They bring in these animators. They bring, you get to talk to directors and just really
celebrities.
Oh my God, you get to meet so many interesting, exciting people, and it's just kind of appreciate that
Cool.
while it's going on, because like I look back and there were certain things of like, when photographers came in, I was like,
I'll take a donut, but that's all. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You come in, you flip a book or two, but it's like you have a chance to look at people's hearts, like they're just throwing them out there for you, and you get to talk to these people, meet them, and learn about these experiences.
Right. Plus, you know how it is. You've worked with directors that you have like life relationships with now, and like you can meet a photographer on a Wednesday morning conference room book review, whatever,
right.
and that you could end up like having a long-term professional and friendship with. We shot this commercial with this director named Andrew Walton, who does documentaries, and like to this day, like we're still friends. We shot just one campaign together, but like those things, it's really interesting because you don't realize it. I think when it's happening, that like this is pretty cool.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
We get to do something really cool, and I think we lose sight of that. We could, we complain of like, oh, the client, they wanted to change that line, and like you're on a set, you're shooting an awesome spot, just enjoy it. And
come up with a better line and you'd be happier anyway.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. So
I'm just talking to myself because I would have been like, hey, you're messing up my genius. No, man, your genius is to make this better now.
Right.
That's your genius.
Yeah, just
I think
just
that's
laugh.
huge. I think too, something for me personally was just to not let other people make me feel small. Like my opinion didn't matter because I came through an untraditional entry into advertising. I feel like I had a lot of people discount my thoughts because I didn't know what I was talking about.
Yeah, they were me and Todd who thought that you weren't worth it because we weren't like looking at you in the eye as if there was some value in you.
Right.
Because we had a real project to work on that day and I didn't want another donut. So I mean, like, I think that these are related. They're two sides of the same coin.
Exactly.
It's about appreciating the people that you're
surrounding yourself with.
Yeah. It's just interesting. I think it's really, it's cool. Like, you get, the more and more you think about it, you're like, just laugh.
Yeah.
It's a fun job. Like the people you get to work with are goofy.
Yeah.
They're strange. They're smart, and you get to kind of show up
in fun spaces in jeans and a t-shirt.
Exactly.
So cool.
Oh, I was gonna say, I like yours too. Be more confident.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And learn how to be more confident with your ideas.
I'm really
and learn how to sell them better.
I'm surprised to hear you say that what you said about people apologizing in their emails and women doing it. That upsets me.
I know. And it's something where I try to pride myself on not doing that myself. And I never really noticed it until somebody pointed it out to me. And I would go through, and women very much so apologize for wasting my time. You're never wasting my time. I decide how my time is spent. Right. An email doesn't throw my whole day off. Like, well, now my day's ruined because you've sent me this email and you totally wasted my time. Just be confident in your outreach to me because you meant to reach out to me and you want to work here. Just own it. We all do.
I think apologizing feels like gratitude, but it's not.
It's not. It's different.
No, it's not. Well, I'm sorry to waste your time. I mean, thank you so much for doing this. Thank you so much for doing this with us.
Thank you for having it. Yeah,
me and my microphone.
I was gonna say maybe you do need to lay on a couch.
I need to lay on a bed for the weekend. So Amanda Speer, it's so great for you to. I'm so appreciative.
I love being here. Thank you so much.
Amanda.Speer@Mekanism.com if you want to reach out and send her electronic mail. Todd is Todd Feitlin at Mekanism.com. Their website is obviously Mekanism.com. You can reach me as always at Dan's Podcast at Mac.com. I've had that address since 1972. You can reach me there, Dan's Podcast at Mac.com. Make sure to like the Facebook page, Facebook.com/DGMS Podcast. Also share the podcast, leave a review on the iTunes Store if you think about it. And don't forget, folks, if you're commuting or taking a road trip, every episode of the podcast is still available through your browser and your smartphone at balserville.com. Thank you for listening. Thank you guys again.
Thank you
so much.
That's awesome.
This was fun. Listeners, we'll see you again in 2 weeks. Until then, bye-bye.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
I love that.
Let me get a snapshot of you guys.
Do a podcast.
What'd you say?
I want to do a podcast.
Oh, you're motivated now?